Hey, tribe, welcome back. This is RayTube practice question number 49, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's dive into it. A social worker at an agency was assigned a task they believe breaches client privacy. They are the only social worker at the agency, and the task needs to be completed by the end of the day. What should the social worker do next? A. Discuss the concern with the client and obtain consent to complete the task. B. Seek outside supervision from a social worker to discuss the concern. C. Speak with the supervisor about the conflict. Or D. Contact the NASW board to report the unethical concern. You know how we do. Pause the video, reread through the question, reread through the answer choices, select your best answer, unpause the video, and then we'll jump into the explanation. Okay. If you picked C, you're correct. Why? So let's look at A. Discuss the concern with the client and obtain consent to complete the task. This is incorrect. Why? This option could possibly create additional issues of the client becoming upset. This option doesn't address the issue of the social worker being assigned tasks that conflict with client privacy. And this option leaves room to possibly be assigned future tasks that are unethical because we didn't bring it to the agency's attention. So it's like, wait a second, Ray, I thought we discussed concerns with the client and da 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 da. It's different if the client brought the concern to us. We believe that is negatively impacting the client. And regardless, at most agencies, it's not like we could, just snap our fingers and just change the policy. Think about how the majority of social workers in these agency settings would respond. Because again, it's not like it's our agency, we have all the power. Wait a second, Ray, how about if it's a private practice, you own the private practice, you create the policy? Where did it say that in the question? The majority of social workers and the majority of social workers at an agency don't have that type of power to just change a policy. A says discuss the concern with the client and obtain consent to complete the task. If we did that, not only is it again possibly creating issues that aren't there with the client, but even still, we would still have to discuss it with the powers that be, uh which is why we're going to go with C. But again, let's go with B. This is incorrect. Seek outside supervision from a social worker to discuss the concern. Wait a second, Ray. I thought if there's a ethical concern or anything like that, we discuss it with a supervisor. True, but the context of the scenario that we're in is important. Yes, seeking supervision if the social worker needs guidance is an appropriate option, but there's a better option available to do next, which would be to bring the concern to the supervisor at the agency and see if it could be resolved. Realistically, how fast could the social worker find and schedule a session with the supervisor on short notice before the end of the day? Because remember, the task needs to be completed by the end of the day. I imagine it would be pretty difficult. Even if the social worker found a supervisor and met with them, the supervisor would most likely have the social worker speak with the agency supervisor to see if it could be resolved. Remember, follow the chain of command. And even with in our code of ethics, where if there's a ethical concern with a colleague, we go to them first before escalating the situation. And I know it says within the question that we're the only social worker at the agency, but we're still a part of that agency. They're still a part of the team. Go to them first, discuss it, see if it can be resolved. And that's why the answer is C. Speak with the supervisor about the conflict. This is correct. Why? Not every company will be run by social workers, so they don't know our code of ethics. According to the NASW Code of Ethics 3.09, commitments to employers, Section A, social workers generally should adhere to commitments made to employers and employing organizations. Section B, social workers should work to improve employing agencies, policies, and procedures and the efficiency and effectiveness of their services. So remember, going to them, discussing it with them. C, social workers should take reasonable steps to ensure that employers are aware of social workers' ethical obligations as set forth in the NASW Code of Ethics and the implications of those obligations for social work practice. In Section D, social workers should not allow an employing organization's policies, procedures, regulations, or administrative orders to interfere with their ethical practice of social work. Social workers should take reasonable steps to ensure that their employing organization's practices are consistent with the NASW Code of Ethics. And like, wait a second, Ray, it is not aligning with what we believe. But notice how all these sections above say, essentially, meet with them, discuss it, educate them about it. And that's why bringing this issue to their attention would adhere to our NASW Code of Ethics, stop future unethical tasks being assigned, and create a better overall quality of services provided for the clients at the agency. And lastly, we seek supervision / speak with the supervisor for guidance when the social worker is unsure how to help a client or how to respond to an ethical dilemma. Yes, the supervisor / manager at the agency may not be a social worker, but we still need to bring the concern to them first. For support when the social worker is experiencing burnout, when the social worker is experiencing countertransference, or if a situation with a colleague needs to be addressed after the social worker has already spoken with them about the situation first. So we still follow the chain of command. And D, contact the NASW board to report the unethical concern. Too much, too soon. This option would be more applicable if unethical behavior at the agency continues to occur after the social worker has attempted to address the issue by discussing it with the management. So again, regardless, all roads lead back to whether we manage to find a supervisor on short notice, discuss it with them. I imagine the outside social work supervisor would say, hey, have you discussed it with the supervisor at the agency you work for? And if we say, no, I imagine they'll steer us in that direction regardless. So we're still will go back to C, speak with the supervisor about the conflict. Because I imagine at this agency, even though they're not a social worker, they're not rubbing their hands together like, "Mwahaha, let's make a policy that's going to negatively impact the clients that we serve here." I imagine not. And how about another thing? How about if we speak with the supervisor at the agency, and although we believe it's negatively impacting them, how about if the supervisor at the agency explains, educate us about why this policy needs to be in place, such as, let's say if it's a late fee policy and we're like, oh man, with our client and their financial situation, it's a struggle for them, and this is really going to negatively impact them because their finances aren't exactly where they want them to be. So when they arrive late, and they usually arrive late, this is going to harm them. And the supervisor at the agency again educates us about, hey, for the last X amount of months of time, this has been a big issue for how the agency can function appropriately because of these issues right here. And with this in place, it actually has improved other areas of the agency because it has prevented people from showing up late or whatever the case may be. And they want to be like, oh, that's why that policy needs to be in place. Got it. And then again, it's a conversation. It could be a possible workaround or whatever it may be, and it could even result in the supervisor at the agency saying, "Oh, wow, we didn't account for that. Like we thought this policy was helping this area, but we didn't know it was actually harming this client in particular and possibly other clients in that area. Okay, let's make an adjustment." But regardless, it's still a conversation to be had. So that's why C, speak with the supervisor about the conflict, would be the best overall option to pick from. Okay, tribe, that's it for today's video. That was RayTube practice question number 49. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell a social work friend because we don't want to be licensed by ourselves. And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to sound like a broken record. And if I annoy you or anything like that, that's fine. I'll take it as long as you pass your exam. Doing at least 2 practice questions a day and at least 1 practice exam a month helps keep the exam anxiety at bay. Because remember, These questions can be presented in so many different ways. We want to make sure that we're in the right frame of mind to identify, oh, regardless of how this question is presented, we still need to follow the chain of command, bring this concern to management, to the supervisor first before escalating or doing anything else, because that's the appropriate action. So 2 practice questions a day, 1 practice exam a month. You got this. All right, tribe, I'll see you next video.